WSTU, it is 9:06, and that means it is time for the forum with your host, Pat Sacco.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Pat.
You know, we're almost halfway through December.
Yes, we are.
My goodness, we always do this. I do this halfway thing because every time I turn around, we're either halfway through a month or almost done with a month. You know,
Christmas comes fast.
Yes, it does. And suddenly it's 4th of July again.
Right.
Well, I want to say good morning to all my friends out there. My former bingo people. We stopped bingo last week, Mike.
You stopped? Yes, you said that.
After a 7-year run, it was a good run, and that's enough. It was at a church, and we were raising money, not to the church, but to outreach.
Oh my, what are you going to do for excitement?
I have other things I want to fill in that Monday. I was out of touch with everything on Mondays because I was there from like 9 to 4. And then phones would ring and I couldn't answer them and all that good stuff. Maybe I'll just slow down a little bit. Slow down a little.
No, don't do that.
No, I'll find something else. That's it. And just saying good morning to everybody. And here we are in the Christmas season. Time for joy and a time for contemplation and a time for hope. For hope.
I love that.
Yeah, and I hope we have a good conversation today.
I do too.
My guest with me today is Karen Treaster, and it's C-A-R-Y-N. I've never met a Y-N
It
before.
is, Pat, and my mom gets credit for that one. But thank you, and I'm really excited to be here, and I just wanted to thank you for having me on. I'm excited, especially this holiday season.
Well, Karen is doing something very neat as a vocation, as a dedication, which is a vocation, but it's a dedication from your end.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I love to see people who have that kind of combination. But, oh, no, I just have a job, I do my job. It's my job.
But that's the point, is to find your passion, your purpose, and I really do believe that I've found it.
Good. Well, we're going to just keep that a mystery for a while
Okay.
because I want to find out about Karen. Tell me about Karen. I know you were born at a very early age. Now, from that point on.
Thanks, Pat. long time ago.
Where'd you grow up?
So I was born in Concord, Massachusetts, but I grew up in New Hampshire.
Oh.
Yes, I grew up in New Hampshire in New England, and I grew
Where
up
in New Hampshire?
Exeter. So it's
Is
a
that
very
near
historical. No, it's closer to the coast, and it's near Portsmouth.
Okay.
And it's near to the ocean, so I had the ocean and the mountains, and I grew up loving the outdoors. I was very athletic.
You were in sports in high
school.
What
did
sports did you
I
do?
did track. I did basketball and field hockey. Field hockey came first. And something people don't know, actually in high school, I went to England playing field hockey. Our team was undefeated, and we raised money. It was really exciting because they're very big into field hockey in England. We saw like about 8 plays and toured all around. So it was really fun. And then, but track was, I really excelled at track, and I really love that sport. But in all of them, I love the team spirit. And I learned a lot from that, and I learned a lot from my coach as well.
Neat.
To never quit.
Well, I see that reflected now. Isn't that amazing? Sometimes even from high school or elementary school or junior high, something happens to you, and it just carries you through the rest of your life.
Exactly.
And it sets you up for things that you would never have thought. I love it. Life happens while you're making plans. And as a junior high person, you'd never imagine sitting in the seat today.
No.
Or even being here in Florida or anything like that.
Or talking about what I'm talking about right now. I could have never imagined. But back in high school, yes. I mean, you know what? I just have to share this because it really made an impact on me. I was, we were doing it was a competition, and you could do several events, and you had to do something that you didn't normally do. Or I had to. I can't remember why, because someone else couldn't do it. And anyway, it was the hurdles, and I never did the hurdles. And so I tripped over one of them, and I fell. And I just remember my coach screaming. Of course, I felt defeated, yelling, you know what, get up, because it could make a difference. And what happened was, by me finishing, our team came in like second as opposed to just losing.
Oh, wow.
So,
See?
So it was huge. Yeah. So never give up.
Well, there are certain people that can bear loss better than others.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were one of those. If you did something, that caused the team to lose or something like that,
Well, I think
were you
that's-
strong enough to take that experience, or just to feel horrible?
I think what happened in team sports is that we got a lot of support. And that's what I noticed, is that people supported. If you didn't do really well, they still supported you. And I think because of that, it was okay. And I think we learned in sports that we had to get over it quickly, because you have to move on. You have to move on to the next game.
There was an experience with my son. I mean, he was so much like me. He had this attitude. People rallied around him. The team rallied around him. The friends rallied around him. He was one of those guys, nice guy, not pretentious at all. And it was a baseball game, and they had to win this game to move on into the playoffs in the high school thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many, if they played 6 or 8 innings or whatever, but score was tied, and then they played another inning, then they played another inning, then they played another inning. And finally, the bases were loaded, and my son was the catcher of our team. And the other team was up, and the kid hit a ball out to right or left field. So the guy from third starts running. That throw from left field was a beautiful throw. It bounced once right into my son's glove as the kid slid in and tagged him. And the referee said safe, and the game was over.
Oh,
Everybody was screaming, no, it was
oh
safe.
my gosh. And
I think the ref wanted to go home.
Yeah.
So everybody's leaving the field. My son
Yeah.
just sat down on home plate. Just sat there.
Mm-hmm.
And I waited till the crowd dispersed a little bit, and I went down and sat next to him. And I said, you know what? I said, if anyone was to be responsible for losing this game, I was hoping it would be you. And he said, why? I said, because you're the one that could take it the best on that team.
Mm.
He said, Dad, you're right. And we got up and walked away.
Yeah.
And
that's
that was
really
character.
good.
I mean,
Mhm,
he didn't yell and
it's
scream and
huge.
jump and all that
Right,
stuff.
Right.
He just sat there like, I failed.
And kind of
know.
contemplated. Right. But in actuality, he
And
really
I thought there's a
didn't.
lesson to
Yeah.
be learned here,
Mhm, mhm.
And he was like that.
Right.
And again, I don't think you can learn things like that. And like what you were saying, I don't think you can be taught those things. It has to happen to you, like through osmosis somehow.
Well,
you know?
right. It has to be intrinsic. It has to, but you can create that. I believe that you can. You can, if you are aware and you understand the circumstances. I think that by thought that you can actually.
But isn't that the key, to get them to understand
Exactly.
that? And then they
That
can.
is it, and then
They
they
can't
can.
teach. You can't teach it.
No,
it has
you
to come
can't teach it.
intrinsically when you
Mhm.
set them up for it.
That is the point, because I remember what can I say what I was, or can I
You still
talk
are,
about-
but
I still are. I still am.
What was you?
I am, but I was a personal trainer, and I still am a personal trainer. But I'm doing something else as well. But I used to try with people, and I would, help them come up with a plan for them. I would get them motivated. They would be awesome when they were working out. But guess what? When they left, that's it. They'd go to a fast food place or something. I was like, wait a minute. No, this isn't going to work.
What was the name of that movie with Lee?
Oversize me or
No. Lee is not Lee Major, but with Drunk on the Horse. Cat Ballou.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see that.
He got rehabbed. He was drunk on a horse all the time,
Uh-huh.
and the horse was leaning cross-legged, and he was leaning against the building. Well, this whole thing, there was a bad guy, and they wanted him to go back to his former stuff. So they put him in a bath. They, gave him a lot of coffee and gave him a shave and put these beautiful clothes on him. Everything. Now he was anyway, can kill the bad guy. The next morning, he's drunk on the horse again.
Right.
That's what say. Give them all this motivation. Then they're out there eating.
Exactly. Yes. So, you have
Cat Ballou. That was the movie.
Oh, okay.
Cat Ballou, right?
Yeah. And yes, it's definitely something that you have to learn from within. And that is something that I do and believe that.
Okay. How did you get
I
to
can
be a
help you.
personal trainer physically?
So personal trainer, I was living in, I started out in Chicago. I lived in Chicago for 20 years.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
And you know lake effect.
Oh, I know lake effect. Oh my gosh. Wind chill factor. Are you kidding?
And the snow never came straight down. It either went to the left or the right.
Oh my gosh. It was so bad. And then people said, had the audacity to say to me that after that I moved to Maine. They're like, oh my gosh, how could you move to Maine? I'm like, are you kidding? Maine is so much.
My friends in Long Island say, oh, we had snow. How many? 3 inches. I said, we had 3 feet. I lived near
Right.
Buffalo.
Right. Oh, well, yeah, So, but in Chicago, and I was looking for something. My kids were getting into they were past preschool, and I wanted to do something part-time at the time. So I started out in aquatics, and I started teaching swimming, and I became a water aerobics instructor. Actually, I did that for about 20 years.
Mm.
I wanted to just keep going because in life, I it's all about learning. And I love what T. Harv Eker, motivational speaker, said, when you stop learning, you die.
Mm.
So, and that was the inspiration for the name of my company right now, too.
What, you die?
No, but that,
What's the name of your company?
Never Settle Life Coaching.
Never Settle.
Never
Life.
settle. So that's
Wonderful,
really
wonderful.
what I
Great.
believe in. Yeah, I
Great.
believe in never settling. So anyway, when I ended up going back to school for personal training, and I got into that, and I taught I taught aerobics and fitness groups and things like that, and was a personal trainer. So I loved it. But what I found out later is that it takes a mindset to really accomplish what you want to, and not just motivation.
It takes a mindset to do anything
Mhm.
right.
Mindset to do anything,
Yeah.
and
You have put your mind to it. Make up your mind that you're going to do it. All those things add up to you have to make a change.
Mhm.
And people we are all so resistant to change. Change is bad. In
Right.
healthcare, the only
Right.
constant in healthcare is change.
Mhm.
Every time you think you got it right, a new regulation comes down the thing, or things change, or you're in a practice and somebody leaves and everything goes upside down. It's change, and we don't like change. We acquisition to what's the word for it? Comfort and calmness and
Right.
familiarity.
Right.
And it really throws people off when you make a change. But if we recognize change as part of our life, and we just have to adapt to it and move on to the next thing. I call it a new adventure. Everything I do is an adventure. I
Yeah.
love thinking about that,
Yeah.
whether it's positive or negative. It's an adventure. I don't see anything as a problem in this world. Believe me, and I'm serious. It's only an opportunity for a solution.
Mhm. Oh, I
Okay.
totally agree with that.
And we got to dig in and figure out what to do to make it change, to make it fix it, rather
Right.
than sit around and stew about it.
Right. And, one of the most important things is having a growth mindset, which is where you believe that you can improve or something will get better. And as far as yourself goes, our bodies are designed to keep us safe. And so when we start thinking of bigger possibilities and actually implementing the actions that you need to take towards them, it can be really, really scary. And that's when you get your doubts, your fears. You really, for me, having faith brought me a long way to believing, which helped with that growth mindset. But if you're not open to that, and you don't continue to do that and continue to work through those fears and doubts, you're never going to know. And that's why I love the never settling, because people have so many hidden passions that they've just never done or never thought that they don't see the possibilities that they could do it, or they could accomplish it, or that they could see, and if they can actually see them in that position. I think what you were talking about with that imagination, if you can visualize yourself in the situation
Mhm.
and have that mindset, and be very intentional about it, it will come true.
This is a perfect place just to stop for a minute and have a commercial, because this is the time we do it.
Oh, great. Okay.
Mike?
WSTU, we go back to the forum with your host, Pat Sacco.
Thank you, Mike. I'm here with Karen.
Hey.
C-A-R-Y-N.
Hello, we're still here. CARYN.
All right. You were a personal trainer. Now I know you're not a personal trainer. Well, you're.
I don't
sort of,
do
but-
it, but I
Yeah,
still,
yeah, yeah.
I still get, I still do my CEUs, the continuing education. So yes, I am very, yeah,
But you're doing something
with it.
else
I am.
now. Anything in your life that made you switch from that to that?
Well, yes, and yes.
Good lead in, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So I was very defeated, and it's interesting because I was looked at as having the perfect life. I believe and that I had 2 kids. I had a husband with his own business, a dog, a big beautiful house. But people thought we had everything. And what people don't know, I felt like I always had to wear a mask really to conceal a lot of what I was feeling. And
The situation wasn't what other people thought it
what
was.
other
There you go.
people thought it
There
was.
you go.
Exactly. So consequently, what it did for me, I felt like I couldn't be my authentic self. Well, I couldn't be. I felt like I couldn't really say what I wanted to a lot. And I felt like my growth, which we talked about, was definitely squelched. I mean, there were things, and it wasn't like I didn't have successes, because I did. But there were certain things that, as long as it fit into a certain way, that they were okay to do. But if it was something that I really liked that somebody else didn't like, well, then it was put down. And I'm not blaming anybody for that, because I wasn't. That's what I want to talk about, is being strong enough to handle something like that. But it was as much as I would gain something, I felt like it just was subtly. It was put down, and consequently, what it did for me is I had very little self-esteem. My confidence was very, very low, and I would outwardly appear like I was very confident, and there were so many things that I did that you would think that I would be. When I was in my 20s in Chicago, I don't know if you know this, but I modeled, and
No, no.
I did commercials.
Oh,
So I took acting. I mean, I did a lot of things. I went to Japan. I worked over there. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I did that, and
we're going to have
I
about
didn't-
6 conversations.
yeah, so I didn't quite get broken then. I think over the years, I was married for 36 years. So the life change was that I finally realized that I couldn't grow. And that was really, really important to me. And that my world was a roller coaster. And it was good, it was bad. This would be several times a day. It would be good, and you would think that would be cumulative in a relationship, but it wasn't. I mean, the next minute I could be reprimanded, for I didn't know why, and I couldn't understand it, and I couldn't understand why a business that I loved. I was in nutrition, and it was direct selling, but I loved it, and I loved helping people, and I always have, but I was never supported. And I used to go in the woods and cry with my dog, because I never saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I never thought that I could get through. And I guess I was searching for me to be me. And this is what I really realized. I mean, at one point, I started doing a little bit of work for myself. And that's when I realized that it wasn't going to happen on the path that I was on.
Oh, we met shortly after you became single.
Yes. Yeah.
Shortly after.
Yeah. This was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I got divorced, and I just realized after 36 years of marriage that you know what, I needed to be me, and I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't, and so I did whatever I could. I ended up taking another job in healthcare when I first left. So all these stepping stones have been great for me, but I really wanted to make a difference. And it's funny because when I was in personal training, I always wanted more. I always knew if they weren't continuing with the exercises that they needed to do, that there was more to it. So that's what I love about the life coaching that I do right now, is that we can, take the culmination of everything and use it to make the best you ever, and to come out and be your authentic self, and to have the passions, and to give you, I've got a never settle system where, by doing the steps, you know what, faith has a big a lot to do with it. There's so many different areas, awareness, and just figuring out and having the imagination to believe, get that growth mindset that you can do it, because you can do anything you want. And that people say to me, oh, I can't, I don't, I would be too afraid, or too, I used to get very anxious, like speaking. I think public speaking, I actually did it in my former business, but that was a set speech, sort of.
Yeah, but I want people out there to know this didn't come to you one morning when you woke up. You spent extensive time studying this system.
Oh my gosh. So what I
Okay.
did is, what changed me is, I knew I needed to work on myself. And I not only read a lot of books, I studied different modalities for healing. I knew the mindset was really important. So I'm an NLP practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming. And really what that does is just, it's kind of like a cognitive, therapy type thing, but it's looking at different perspectives and being open to the possibilities, that change is possible.
Mm.
Right. And once you figure that out, then you need support. And that was something that I realized that people really needed, accountability for the action steps, and then support. And that's really what I do. That's what I help people with, and figuring out, what it is that, that's going to get them to a place where they find joy and happiness.
Well, there has so many applications and implications too. Let's say I want to start a business and I'm not sure if I'm right for that job, or if it's right for me, and I'm questioning myself about a lot of things. That kind of counseling can help me make some pretty serious decisions.
Yes, absolutely.
And it can give me some confidence to maybe
Mhm.
move on and do what I want to do.
Mhm. And I think one of the biggest things, because I do help a lot of people, thanks for mentioning that, in transition, and people, don't really believe in what they can do. What a lot of people don't realize is that when people start something, or when people venture into something, they don't always have the answers. They don't always know everything. There's so many people out there, and even they appear like they have it all together. They appear like they, know so much. But if you really talk to them when they started a new venture, it was scary, because it's something new, and they didn't know, it's uncertainty. And a lot of people want to stay in the certainty, the comfort zone. But I can help people to find the awareness of what they have, and their successes. And one of the things that I learned with NLP is that your successes, your failures, they are all achievements, because they're going to help you as you grow. And I help to strategize and figure out, what they used to get the successes they did, and we can reuse that.
You could modify this program for prison reform. Go into the prisons and do this program with people who are going to come out
absolutely.
and they're going to go back in, and they're going to come out and they're going to go back in, because
Exactly.
they haven't had the time, or they have the time, but they have never had the opportunity to think differently.
Right. Right.
What a
And they
wow.
don't even know.
Wow,
I know
what a-
exactly. How huge would that be?
Oh my
Exactly.
God, yes. I
Yeah,
know
there's so many people.
our church has a deacon who goes and they do weekends
Mhm.
in the county prison or county or whatever it is locally.
Right.
And they'll stay there for 3 days, 3 nights or whatever, 2 nights, Friday and Saturday
Mhm.
night. And they do these sessions with these prisoners
Mm.
about Christianity and God and hope and things like that. And when you look at recidivism rates, I understand it's about 70% in the country that they go back. Okay.
Right.
Recidivism, going back to jail.
Exactly. Yes.
This program that they're doing ends up like 10 or 15% go back to jail
Wow.
because it makes a difference once they begin to
Yes.
think about themselves. Now, add that coaching of confidence on top of that
Right.
and learning how to be out of jail and having the direction and live in a better society and be more successful. Oh my God.
Oh, it's amazing. And
They're there they're there to think about it. They're not going to go home because they are home.
right. Well, and that's it. And that's it, Pat, because and that kind of brings me to to loneliness too. And I think if you know what you know, and I have God in my life. I mean, I'm not here to talk about religion, but that faith has been really huge. And I think a lot of people, they don't know that their mind can work for them because there's just so much negativity in there. And that's one of the biggest pieces, is that people don't know how to get rid of that negative talk.
But sometimes people get angry at God because when your life is going well and you believe in God and everything's fine, then when the bad parts come, God let me down. You know, like why me kind of thing. How come? It was a beautiful off-Broadway play called Sister Mary Ignatius.
Mm-hmm.
Ran on
Mhm.
off-Broadway for a long time. It's 3 characters, an older woman and 2 younger girls.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 girls go back to their school. They're adults, and they tour their old school, and there's Sister Mary Ignatius, who they had in school.
Mm-hmm.
Old lady, nun.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole play is the interplay of the 3 of them. And at one point, one of the girls turns to the nun and says, "Sister, why doesn't God answer all our prayers?" And the sister got very indignant. She said, "God answers all your prayers. Sometimes the answer is no."
Well, there you go.
You know, and then when
Yeah.
that happens and you're in a bad place and you're thinking
Mhm.
nobody's, "Oh, God, what is God? God's not helping." You think, well, God is just waiting for you to make the next step.
Right.
You know?
And how close are you really? I mean, if things are happening and so many people, when things are down, that's when they seek God. And I mean,
Any God. We're
any
talking
God.
about
Any
God that's written in the
right,
Talmud,
right,
that's written
exactly.
in
A
the
higher power, whatever.
in the Quran,
Uh-huh.
and in the
Mhm.
Bible, any deity
Mhm.
that people espouse to.
Mhm.
I don't know what Indians, what is their book? What is their faith? With
I'm not
Vishnu
sure.
or whatever.
Right.
There must be some writings there too. Even with the Mormons.
Mhm.
I lived
Mhm.
30 miles from
Right.
Palmyra,
Yeah.
New York.
I used to work with a Mormon.
Well,
Yeah.
that's where the
Yeah.
Hill Cumorah is, right
Mm.
down the road from
Okay.
us. And that's where Joseph Smith went into the cave.
Mhm.
And the angel was there and he came out. Joseph was a dolt in the community, was kind of dumb. He came out with his books and suddenly was very intelligent.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that whole thing started. And they have a Mormon pageant every year. I want to dwell on this. It's 2 weeks and it's like a Hollywood production, sound system. It's gorgeous
Mhm.
at night. And it's never rained on a Mormon pageant.
Wow.
And they do a 2-week thing in
Yeah.
August, I
Wow.
think. It's
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
whatever you believe in it or the direction you go.
Yeah, and I think one of the important things, and I have sort of a ritual that I do in the morning, and that's going into your head and really whatever, I talk to God, you can talk to whoever you want. But it's getting to that place where you are seeing awareness of yourself beyond. I kind of look at it beyond all the doubts, the fears, the negative stuff. You have to go above that, get to a place where the truth is, the truth
Mhm.
about you and who you are supposed to be, and what is going to make you happy. And it's hard to get to that place. And it takes a lot of concentration, and it takes doing it every single day. And I think when you are sort aligned with that, and you are you are going after what you need to do, how you were inspired, and doing that every single day, that more things go right for you every single day. And you're happier and more calm
Mhm.
and have more joy.
If you have a
And-
direction, you have a purpose.
Mhm.
My directions and purposes are from my phone. I mean, I've got a schedule and I follow that schedule. And
Well, I hope you have some quiet time
oh,
too.
I do. Actually,
You
I do. People
Yeah.
think, oh, he's going out. I don't. I still have some good chunks of time.
Mhm.
I might set
Mhm.
up a day where I've got some things early in the morning, a luncheon meeting, whatever, 1 o'clock. And then I'm at 2 o'clock, I go home
Mhm.
and I just can chill out. I can read. I can get on the computer. I can take a
Right.
nap,
Right.
whatever, cook
Right.
dinner. And that's another, when I get in my house, I'm a different person, right? I'm home and now that's a purpose. I'm not dwelling on my work while I'm there,
No, and I think
unless the
that's
damn phone goes off all the time.
yeah, and we'll turn it off.
Yeah.
And just, if you're doing things that are therapy for you, like maybe you like cooking, that's good. Sometimes I like it. But going for a nature walk or just, doing a little bit of yoga, anything you can do to focus. That's why I love exercise too.
Mike, I'm going to step out of the room a minute. Would you
Yeah,
continue with the interview?
we could take a break too.
All right, let's take a quick
We'll,
break.
we'll take another break.
Okay, good.
And it's 9:46. We go back to the forum with your host, Pat Sacco.
Thanks, Mike. We're back with Karen again.
Hello, hello.
This is fascinating. I
here.
love this business about somebody helping somebody change their thinking. That's the thing. You know, you can change your lifestyle. You can eat certain foods. You can, avoid this and that. But changing your thinking is really a tough job.
It's so much fun, and I was
once you
so
do-
fascinated, right? Because once I started looking at things differently, and quite frankly, I did go to a life coach, and she had me looking at different possibilities, like asking different questions. Even little things like if somebody hates their job, well, what if you looked at it? What do you like about your job?
Mm.
What do you like about being able to work the hours that you do? What do you like about the money? What do you like about, just asking different questions. And then because what happens is it opens your mind. So you're thinking of different a way of approaching it. And what you think about becomes reality. And this is something Bruce Lipton in The Biology of Belief. It's a book. And when I read that, I was so fascinated that you could override some of your subconscious thoughts.
I've never had any training in that area, but I did a big thing while I was working. I was at a college. I was an administrator and a teacher together. And I was spending an inordinate amount of time at work. Sometimes I'd go back to work after dinner. Sometimes on the weekends. I had just so much to do and everything. And I decided to give myself a raise because I figured out the number of hours I was working and the dollars per hour was low because I was working so many hours. So what I did was I cut back on my number of hours because I discovered during the daytime I spun a lot of wheels. I wasted a lot of time. So I started cutting down on that time wasting and did more of my job, which allowed me to work less hours. So now I was getting more dollars per hour.
I love
focusing. And that
By
was once I
focusing.
started doing
Right.
that, it was, and then it was a challenge. Like, how can I cut back a little more? How can I make this a little more efficient that I'm doing? And it was really fun.
That's so exciting because you know what? That's a huge part of it. And here's the thing. By focusing on your intentions, if you spent a little more time in the morning focusing on your intentions, getting inspired, and listening to your inner self about what to do, and not just starting your day, go, 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 go on your to-do list, you are going to be more successful, and it's going to be easier throughout the day because you're doing what you were inspired to do, and you're going to reach your goals faster. But it starts with that inner work, and that's what people don't realize.
I took a course. I was working for a rehab company, and we weren't a permanent place. We went to buildings and did therapy, went to another building. It was a contract service. And they set us all up for a 6-week course. We met in the evening about once or twice a week. And we had a task that every morning we had to get up and look in the mirror and 10 times say, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself.
Absolutely. You know what? It's so huge, Pat. Louise Hay, who is someone who was very, very much into self-compassion and loving yourself. And when we do that, I know it seems silly and it's really hard to do that at first, but you start believing it because whatever you say in your mind, you believe. And the thing is, you've got to bring it, to the frontal cortex. You know what I mean? You've got to bring it to the front where you're concentrating and focusing on that. And if your mind leads, astray to the negative thought again, I always tell people, come back with gratitude. Come back and have a list of things that you have gratitude for, that you're grateful for. I have a gratitude practice, and there was a Harvard study done actually, and it said that, and this is something that people can do. Write down 3 things every morning that you're grateful for, and then go over them again at night. because it'll kind of set your mind into that grateful mode. I write down even more. I write 10, but whatever level you are, write down, whatever you can, but start because you're most creative in the morning. Get your mind right. And it will increase your optimism, they found, employee morale, your willpower, and really, you will find more joy in being grateful. And that's, it's a great, I would suggest that to anybody, especially this holiday season where people are so stressed about things, and they worry so much. Worrying is a waste of time.
I heard a great expression, and it's part of my life. Worrying is stewing without doing.
Yes.
Because if you're worried about something, folks, we're worried about a test, you don't study for it.
Right.
You're worried about what's going to happen, you don't do anything. It's just a way of procrastinating. So I don't like to worry. I like to problem solve. Like I say, there are no problems. There are solutions.
Yeah, but you're open-minded, right?
Something's wrong. Well, let's not get a group together and discuss it. Let's get a group together and fix it.
Yeah. And
come on.
Right. Well, we'll change your thought. Here's the thing. It's all about changing your thought, what you said.
You used that word, change.
That
we're afraid of, that we're fearful, that we hate.
Right.
But we can use that to better ourselves.
Because this is what I've noticed. Some people, well, not some people, but there's a lot of people. They're, like we said before, they're very, very complacent, and they actually, they'll self-sabotage. Actually, they'll be thinking sad or unhappy thoughts, and that's comfortable for them, and they'll stay in that because, this is what I deserve, and that's another huge thing. They do it because they think it's what they deserve. So what I help people with is seeing how, bring out their greatness, see how, deserving people are, be more compassionate with yourself. It's because treat yourself like you would treat a friend, not that, I'm not good enough for that.
And holiday time is not a time to grieve.
No.
It's not a time to grieve.
No.
Your husband died 2 years ago, and we used to have such a wonderful Christmas. Well,
right.
Just sit in your chair, look at the tree, and talk to your husband out loud.
Exactly.
Doesn't this look beautiful?
Bring back the memory. I love that. Exactly. Exactly.
People get depressed. I didn't have enough. I don't have enough. Well, what do you have? Look at what you have.
Right.
People don't like me. How many friends? Oh, I have a lot of friends. Well, whoa, wait a minute. You just said people don't like you. Why would you have a lot of friends if people don't like you?
Right.
Right. It's
because that's what you want to do.
Dwelling on the positive.
Right.
Okay. We have to do that. Or else we lead a pretty miserable life. It's our making. We make it that way.
Yeah, we are. It's all about what we do and the change that we make in ourselves. But you brought up about grieving too, and you know what? My dad died about 3 years ago. 2 years ago, and I do exactly what you say because, I was. It's always tough, it's always a difficult time. But I think about what my dad brought, and we had a camp or like a cottage in Maine that he used to go to, and he was always so excited about doing that. And I think he brought that to all of us. He brought that energy and just exploring and loving of the outdoors. And I think about that, and I think about that place. And that brings me back to a place of happiness, joy. And if you feel the emotion, like I'll really get in the emotion, oh my gosh. And we have kayaks there. We can go out on a kayak and just being, taking it all in and just in love. I mean, you have a feeling of love. If you can bring that back, everybody's got some happy moment.
Sure.
And that's what I would suggest to people.
Sure.
Just what you said.
Sure.
Just, do that. And you know what, it's going to change just the way you feel, what you do. Physiology, Tony Robbins, he's another motivational. Says physiology is the fastest way to change your state. Even by sitting up, by putting your shoulders back, by putting your head up.
Well, people think I'm crazy. We're going to go on a little cruise Sunday for a few days. And I'll sit at a slot machine and I'll talk to Bobby. Well, Bobby was a real good friend of mine, and he passed away years ago. And when we would go to a casino together, he would do 10 pulls. I would do 10 pulls on the same machine. And we would rival. How many did you get? How many? We would spend hours doing this. Had a great time. So every time I sit down to a slot machine, I look up at the sky and I say, Bobby, come on, help me now.
I love it. I love it.
And I go by his shop. I say, hi, Bobby. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm bringing back positive memories of this guy rather than
I
saying
love
my friend is
that.
dead.
And how much more enjoyable is life going to be if we can, I realize that getting over a loved one, it's devastating. But if you can change your thought, you've got to go through a grieving period. I'm not saying
Mhm.
that you don't, but you can change that anger into, into
And make you feel good.
gratitude
Make you
and to
feel
make
good.
you feel good.
Make you
Right.
feel good.
Right. Exactly. And that's what life is all about. I mean, going through life, and how can you take a situation? It's kind of like a puzzle. How can you make this into something that is really going to work for you and is going to bring you the most peace. I used to be a very anxious person, and I love how changing my life has.
Okay, now let me say it, because I was going to say it earlier, but I thought that was not the time for it. You are a totally different person than I met,
Oh, wow. Thank you.
because I saw you at your worst.
Right.
And it was so apparent,
Right.
to me anyway.
Right.
I just be nice to her.
Right.
Don't bring anything up. Don't trigger the tears or see the anger, flaring in your eyes. And you're different now. You seem to have found yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I think that's what it's all about. And because I have, Pat, that's why I am sharing this
And that's
with
exactly
everyone
what
else.
you
And
need to do.
I will help, again, what I've helped a lot of people in transition, but it may be a goal somebody's trying to achieve. But you've got to be in that right mindset. A lot of times people need the support, they need the action steps and the accountability. But it really is a mind change. And
Okay.
yeah.
Remember, her name is Karen Treister, Trie.
No. Karen, Caryn.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm looking to send out inspirational.
I was just saying your last
yeah.
name.
Oh, okay. Treister is Treister.
Eister.
Right.
And how about a phone number?
Yeah. So
Give
it's
somebody.
207 712 2234. And my website is neversettlelifecoaching.com. So that's pretty easy. Neversettlelifecoaching.com. So I'm just into never settling. You know what? Always be looking. Don't settle for learning. Don't settle for exercise. Try to, I'm all about the health. I'm all about just inspiring as much as you can do to better your life and find joy.
Very good. Well, Karen, thank you so much for being here today. Really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much. The pleasure's all mine.
And Merry Christmas, everyone out there. I won't be here next week, but we have my usual fill-in. And be at peace and enjoy this holiday season. And thank you for listening to The Forum.